Keep the cars moving.
Buyers are here. Is this private?
It's handled. Who gave permission?
Just open the gate. This is private land.
You're the help.
We're on schedule. Show me written permission.
Open it. Should we be here?
Don't worry. Who authorized this event?
You don't need to know that.
We have buyers waiting. Then take them somewhere legal.
Listen to me.
You're the help. She said it was reserved.
Open it.
No. Don't make this ugly.
You're embarrassing yourself.
This gate stays closed.
Maybe we should leave.
Nobody leaves. Move aside. We can call someone. Is he the owner?
He works here. Last chance. Show permission.
Or what?
Or I make one call.
Why are deputies here?
Routine issue.
Tell him he's blocking access.
Tell him the truth.
Everyone step back. We have authority.
Read the deed. Wait.
What is it?
Keep reading.
This name.
That's mine.
He owns it?
That can't be right.
Everyone stop talking.
The woman at the gate smiled as if the ranch already belonged to her. Behind her, luxury cars rolled in, realtors stepped onto the dirt, and a banner promised exclusive sunset showings. When the black man in worn boots asked who gave permission, she laughed. You're the help. Open it. What happens when a neighborhood board tries to steal one evening, one legacy, and one family's last sacred place? How far can a quiet man be pushed before he reaches for the phone? And why did the deputies suddenly stop talking when they read the name on the deed? Stay until the end, because the gate was only the beginning. The chain gave a dry, metallic click when Elijah Mercer slid the lock through the ranch gate. Behind him, the sun burned low over Raven Creek, turning dust orange and wire copper. Ahead, 6 cars idled on the county road, engines humming over grasshoppers. A banner had been tied to his fence with plastic zip ties. Exclusive sunset showing. Elijah read it once, then looked at the woman beside the pearl-colored SUV. "Ma'am," he said, "who authorized this?" Brenda Whitcomb smiled without warmth. Cream slacks, gold watch, chin lifted like she was already inside. "There you are. We were told someone would open the ranch gate." "That wasn't my question." A man in a silver tie checked his phone. "Tom Elkins, Cedar Ridge Premier Realty. We have buyers waiting." "Then take them somewhere you're allowed to be." Brenda laughed lightly. "I don't know what the Mercers pay you, but nobody is here to make trouble. Open the gate, keep the livestock back, and we'll be gone before dark." Dust had settled in the grooves of the lock. Elijah rubbed it from his thumb. "I'm not opening it." A woman near the third car raised her phone, aiming past him at the pasture, the live oaks, the old barn roof glowing in the sunset, like the land had already become a brochure. Brenda turned to the buyers. "This is the local confusion we expected. The caretaker was supposed to be notified." A young assistant in a navy blazer lowered the folder in her arms. Her name tag read Lena. Her eyes moved from Brenda to the private property sign beside Elijah's shoulder. He noticed. "Do you have written permission?" Elijah asked. Brenda's smile tightened. "We have HOA authority over shared perimeter access." "This is not shared access. It connects to Willowbend." "It touches Willowbend. That's different." The grasshoppers filled the pause. Several buyers looked down at their shoes. Tom lifted a laminated site map and tapped a highlighted strip. "This road has historical use. That map stops at the drainage ditch. Are you a surveyor now?" "No." "Then open the gate." Elijah turned to the banner. The first zip tie snapped under his fingers. One buyer flinched. The second tie broke, and the vinyl sagged against the chain. Sunset flashed in the metal links, bright for 1 second, then dull again. "Don't touch that," Brenda said. "It's tied to my fence." "It's tied to an event marker." He folded the banner once and laid it across the hood of her SUV. The vinyl made a soft slap against the paint. Brenda's mouth opened, then closed. These people came here expecting professionalism. I agree. Then stop embarrassing yourself. Lena whispered. Mr. Elkins, did we confirm the owner signed? Tom turned just enough to silence her. Not now. Brenda lifted her phone. Carter, bring the access key to the south gate. Hurry. A male voice crackled through the speaker. South gate? Ma'am, I thought that was private. It is temporarily approved, she said. Just do it. Elijah's eyes moved to the mesquite line, where an old cattle track dipped behind the windmill. Someone had studied the ranch from outside. No, he said. But the first car behind Brenda edged toward the shoulder, its tires turning toward the hidden cut in the fence. At 6:12 that morning, before any luxury car found the county road, Elijah stood in the barn with a cooling coffee cup and his father's hat above feed hooks. The hat had lost its shape. Sweat had darkened the band. A storm had curled one side of the brim. Beneath it, a glossy flyer had been shoved through the barn door. Sunset Realtor Preview. Raven Creek Views. Limited access. A mare shifted in the stall, hoof scraping wood. The air smelled of hay, cold iron, and dust under the first heat. Outside, wind moved through dry grass like paper being folded. Coffee getting old? His mother called. Ruth Mercer came from the tack room, 78, silver hair pinned tight, one hand sliding along the wall. Her slippers hid under a brown coat. Elijah turned the flyer over. No signature. No permit number. Only Tom Elkins's office. Ruth read his face. What is it? Someone thinks they're showing the ridge tonight. Our ridge? That's what the paper says. Her wedding ring tapped the glossy corner once. Your father hated shiny paper. He hated people who used it to cover dirt. A pickup rolled past the open barn doors, slow enough for the driver to look in. Elijah stepped outside. Morning lay pale across the pasture. On the north fence line, orange survey ribbon fluttered from 3 fresh stakes. Ruth stopped in the doorway. You didn't put those there. No, ma'am. Call the county. I will. Call before you try being polite. He almost smiled. I can do both. By 7:05, Elijah was kneeling in damp weeds with pliers. The first stake had been hammered beside the old cedar marker planted after the drought of 1968. The ribbon snapped in the wind, bright and cheap against gray wood. Elijah? Nora Blake stood by a blue car with school papers on the passenger seat. 39, a teacher at Cedar Ridge Elementary. She wore her hair in a loose braid. I saw men out here yesterday, she said. Measuring. One had a drone. Did they cross? She looked toward Willow Bend Estates, where identical roofs rose beyond the ditch. One did, just for a minute. I thought maybe you hired them. I didn't. Brenda told the neighborhood group the ranch was partnering with the HOA. Elijah pulled the stake free. Wet soil clung to the point. Did she use that word? Partnering. He laid the stake across the grass instead of throwing it. Thank you. She also said not to bother you because caretakers get nervous when big money comes through. The pliers closed in his hand, just enough for the metal to mark his palm. Nora looked down. I'm sorry. You didn't say it. No, but I heard it and kept driving. Near the creek, a gate hinge knocked twice in the wind. Elijah carried the ribbons back to the barn. Ruth waited beside the old hat, the flyer flat on the workbench. What did Nora say? She asked. That Brenda's been talking. Brenda talks when she wants people too tired to ask. Tonight was supposed to be supper here. It still is. Not if they bring strangers through. Ruth reached up and straightened the hat on its nail. Her hand trembled after she let go. Then, keep the gate closed. Elijah picked up the flyer. In the corner, Under the sunset picture, a dotted route line ended at his barn. The dotted route ended at Elijah's barn, but the letterhead came from Willow Bend Estates. By 9:20, he stood outside the HOA clubhouse where asphalt became pale concrete. Sprinklers ticked across trimmed lawns. The air smelled of cut grass and chlorine. A notice had been taped inside the glass door. Temporary perimeter access, approved for Realtor preview. At the bottom was Brenda Whitcomb's signature. A guard stepped from the booth, 34, broad-shouldered, thumb worrying a key ring. "Sir, can I help you? I need Mrs. Whitcomb." "Are you here for maintenance?" "No." His eyes dropped to Elijah's boots. "Board meeting is private." Elijah lifted the flyer. "So is the land on this route." The clubhouse doors opened. Brenda's voice carried out. "We're demonstrating the value Willow Bend has always had." Tom Elkin stood by a poster board showing sunset over pasture land. Mrs. Allen, 66, small in a blue cardigan, held a paper cup with both hands. Elijah walked in. Conversation thinned. People looked, measured, then looked away. Brenda turned slowly. "This is not a public forum." "It became one when you taped that notice to the door." Tom smiled. "Folks, this is the caretaker from Raven Creek. We expected confusion." Elijah unfolded an old survey map. The paper had softened at the creases from years in a metal file box. Wind from the door caught one corner and made the boundary lines tremble. "The easement ends at the drainage ditch," he said. "No commercial access, no staging, no buyers." Brenda did not take the map. "That document looks old." "It is." "Then it may not reflect modern community use." Mrs. Allen leaned forward. "Didn't we receive a packet about shared view corridors?" "We did," Brenda said, "and we're following it." Elijah held the map toward Tom. "Show me where Raven Creek consented." Tom's smile stayed, but his jaw worked once. "Consent can be established through cooperation. Not in Texas property law." Brenda's watch clicked against her bracelet. "And your legal training is from where?" Warm air kept shaking the paper in Elijah's hand. "I can read a boundary." Carter Dane stepped closer, voice low. "Sir, they're asking you to leave." "Who is they?" "The board." "This isn't their land." Brenda pointed toward the doors. "You are disrupting a sanctioned presentation." Mrs. Allen set her cup down. Coffee sloshed onto the saucer. "Maybe we should verify before tonight." "We have verified," Brenda said. "With the owner?" Mrs. Allen asked. The room changed around that word. Tom stepped in quickly. "We have operational permission. It's visual access." Elijah folded the map along its oldest crease. "Visual access still requires standing somewhere." Brenda's face hardened. "Carter, escort him out." The guard's keys jingled once, then stopped. He looked at Elijah, then at Brenda. "I can walk," Elijah said. At the doorway, he turned back. "If cars pass that ditch tonight, call the sheriff before I have to." Tom gave a soft laugh. "Threats now?" "No," Elijah said. "Instructions." Outside, the sprinklers shut off. The sudden quiet made the paper in his hand sound loud. On the clubhouse wall, another flyer had already been pinned. Sunset access begins at 5:30. At 3:38 p.m., the first white chair came over the cattle track on a flatbed trailer. Elijah saw it from the barn door while he was oiling the latch for Ruth's supper tables. The chair legs rattled, a bright, hollow sound that did not belong with cattle or wind under the tin roof. Behind the trailer, two men carried a folding stand. "Gates closed," Elijah called. The driver killed the engine. Dust touched Elijah's boots. A stocky man climbed down, 45 or so, with a tape measure on his belt. "You Mercer?" Depends why you're asking. Miguel Santos, setup crew. We were told to stage check-in by the barn, photo point near the windmill, chairs facing west. You were told wrong. Miguel looked at the trailer. Sir, I got inventory and 2 guys on hourly. Then don't unload it on private land. A second car came up the track. Lena Morris stepped out with a clipboard pressed to her chest, blazer dusty at the cuffs. Paige Wynn lifted a camera behind her. Lena's voice was careful. Mr. Elkins said the south gate was available. It isn't. He said there was an agreement. Ask him to show it. Miguel muttered, That's what I told dispatch. Elijah touched the first chair's plastic back. The sun had warmed it until it felt almost soft. Beyond it, the barn stood open. Inside, Ruth had laid simple plates on a long table, and above them, faded photographs lined the wall. His father on a tractor, his wife laughing beside the creek, 3 generations under one beam. Paige raised the camera. Not inside, Elijah said. She lowered it halfway. I'm getting natural texture. That's my family. Lena turned toward the barn. Her gaze caught on a framed picture near the workbench, the glass rubbed cloudy at the corners. Next to it, Miguel had set down the white folding stand. Its clean panels leaned against the table leg like an accusation. Lena swallowed. Is that your wife? Elijah did not look at the photograph. Yes. I'm sorry. We were told this barn was vacant. It is not. A pickup horn sounded. Another crew truck appeared with 2 gold signposts. Miguel rubbed his neck. I can call my boss and say site access is disputed. Say site access is denied. Lena clicked her pen twice, then stopped. Mr. Mercer, I don't want to make this worse. You can start by moving that stand. She stepped quickly to the barn and lifted one side. Miguel took the other. The stand scraped the floorboards, then bumped against the threshold. The white edge left a faint line through hay dust. Paige watched from beside the car. Brenda is going to be furious. Elijah folded the nearest chair and set it back on the trailer. That's her business. Mine too, if she blames the vendor. Then tell the truth before she arrives. Lena looked down at the clipboard. Under her top page, Elijah saw the corner of a glossy presentation. Raven Creek Experience. Buyer Arrival Flow. He held out his hand. May I see that? She hugged the clipboard closer. I can't. Can't or won't. A gust pushed through the barn, lifting one loose photograph against its frame. The little tap of glass against wood made everyone still. From the county road came the low growl of an SUV turning in too fast. Lena whispered, She's here. Brenda's SUV stopped so hard the tires pushed dust against the cattle track. She stepped out before the engine died, pointing at the trailer. Tom Elkins climbed from the passenger side with his phone to his ear. What is all this sitting here? Brenda asked. Miguel lowered the white chair. Ma'am, site access is denied. By whom? Elijah stood in the barn doorway. By the man responsible for this land. Brenda looked from his frayed collar to the dust on his boots. Behind her, 2 buyers waited beside a black sedan. Brenda laughed for them. Please ignore this interruption. The caretaker is confused about tonight's preview. The word crossed the barn like cold air. Lena looked down at her clipboard. Miguel stared at the trailer hitch. I'm not confused, Elijah said. Tom covered his phone. Then stop creating a scene. Clients arrive in 15 minutes. You brought clients to private property. Brenda turned toward the buyers. This is why rural deals need handling. Some staff get emotional when change comes. The woman in linen looked at Elijah, then away. A fly bumped the barn window. Once, twice. Inside, Ruth's plates clicked as wind moved over the supper table. Elijah stepped down. "Take your signs and chairs back to the road." Brenda lifted a red ribbon from Miguel's supply box and walked to the gate. "Tom, check-in goes there. Do not tie anything to that gate." She pulled the ribbon across the chain. "Temporary dressing. Trespass evidence." Tom snapped his fingers at Carter Dane, who had arrived in a cart. "Move him out of the client path." Carter's keyring shook. "Mr. Elkins." "Now." Elijah kept his eyes on Carter. "You don't have authority here." Brenda tied the ribbon into a neat bow. "And you do?" No one answered. Miguel's crew held folded chairs and waited. Brenda faced Elijah, voice soft enough to sound polite. "Whatever the Mercers pay you, tonight matters to this community. Help, or be remembered as the man who embarrassed himself in front of people trying to improve this place." Ruth appeared at the barn door. She wore the blue dress she saved for suppers. Beside her, the half-set table sat under old photographs. Brenda waved lightly. "Ma'am, we'll be finished before your little gathering." Ruth did not answer. She only looked at the ribbon. Elijah reached for it. "Don't," Brenda said. He loosened the bow with 2 fingers. Dust coated the fabric where it had dragged over the chain. When he pulled it free, a red stripe crossed his palm. Tom muttered, "Unbelievable." Elijah laid the ribbon across Brenda's SUV hood. It left a dusty mark on the paint. Her smile disappeared. "You just made a very expensive mistake." "No," Elijah said. "I kept one from getting worse." The man in linen cleared his throat. "Brenda, maybe we should confirm the access agreement." "There is no issue," she snapped. "Please wait by your vehicle." Lena took one step toward Elijah. "Mr. Mercer, Tom cut across her. "Back to the car." Elijah turned toward the barn. Ruth was gone. Where she had stood, a paper napkin from the supper table had blown out and caught against the threshold. He folded it once and put it in his pocket. Past the gate, more headlights gathered on the county road. At 4:26 p.m., the county archive smelled of dust, toner, and old rain in the walls. Elijah stood under a humming fluorescent strip, while Iris Cole slid a clipboard across the counter. 61. Narrow glasses on a chain. Gray curls held by pencils. She read his name twice. "You need a certified copy of the Raven Creek deed? And the 1989 survey. The trust restrictions, too." Her pencil stopped. "Mercer?" "Yes, ma'am." "Your father brought peaches when he needed maps." "He believed fruit made bureaucracy kinder." "It didn't. We let him think so." Late sun burned white on the courthouse steps. Elijah could still feel the red ribbon's dust in his palm. Iris typed, then leaned toward the screen. "That's odd." "What is?" "Someone pulled Raven Creek records yesterday." "Who?" "Willow Bend HOA admin review." Elijah placed both hands on the cold counter. "Did they receive copies?" "Uncertified scans, parcel overview, easement index." Her voice dropped. "Not the trust box." "There's still a trust box?" "There is if nobody lost my key." She vanished between metal drawers. They opened with a clank that traveled through the room. Elijah's phone buzzed. "Ruth, car's still by road. I am inside. Don't rush angry." He answered. "Door locked?" "Yes." Nora came over. He looked at the clock above the service window. 4:31. Iris returned with a flat gray folder and a wooden case darkened by handling. "Flagged restricted because of the burial plot and water covenant. Folks hate old covenants until they need one." She laid out cream-colored pages with softened edges. A faded blue stamp marked the first sheet. Raven Creek Land Trust. Elijah touched the corner. "You all right?" she asked. trying not to hear my father saying he told me so. Good men usually do. The copier warmed with a rising whine. Iris fed the deed 1 page at a time. Each sheet smelled of heat and ink. When she pressed the county seal into the first copy, the dry click filled the counter like a small door shutting. A man in a tan jacket stepped from the records aisle. He glanced at Elijah, then the folder. "Need something?" Iris asked. He smiled too quickly. "Just checking parcel access for Willow Bend. You'll need a written request. I filed one. Yesterday was yesterday." His eyes flicked to the stamp. "Is that for Mr. Elkins?" Elijah turned fully. "No." "I only meant—" "I know what you meant." Iris pulled the folder closer. Certified records go to the owner, trustee, or authorized counsel. The man folded his slip. Brenda said the caretaker was delaying things. Elijah held his gaze. "Tell Brenda the owner is on his way back." The room went still. Even the copier stopped. The man left without waiting for the elevator, shoes tapping fast down the hall. Iris stacked the copies, wrapped them with a rubber band, and slid the survey on top. North boundary, drainage ditch, old cattle track, no commercial passage, no HOA authority. "What do I owe you?" $26 and a promise. "What promise?" "That you don't let them turn your mother's table into a sales station." His phone lit. Nora had sent a photo. Brenda's banner was back on the fence, with buyers standing beneath it like they were waiting to enter a theater. By 5:07 p.m., Elijah was back at the gate with certified papers and a second chain. The banner had been tied higher. Vinyl snapped in the wind. Buyers waited on the county road with cups, lanterns glowing by the cattle guard, as if light could make trespass polite. Nora met him by the ditch, phone in hand. "Your mother's inside. Door locked." "Thank you." Brenda called it a safety inspection. Elijah slipped the chain through the bars. The metal was cold from the truck bed, rough with rust. It struck the post once, and people turned. Brenda came fast across the dust. "What are you doing?" "Securing the gate. You're obstructing an approved event." He taped a notice below the private property sign. "No commercial entry, no photography, no staging." Tom read it and laughed. "Anybody can print that." "These are certified." Elijah touched the envelope. "Deed, survey, trust restriction." Brenda's eyes flicked to the seal. "Carter, call code compliance. Say an unstable employee is blocking access." Carter stood by the cart, sweating. "This road doesn't serve Willow Bend houses." "Call?" Elijah turned the key. It scraped before the lock caught. Tom stepped close. "You think chains impress people?" "No." "Then why add one? So nobody mistakes patience for permission." At 5:19, a county pickup arrived, followed by a sheriff's cruiser. Deputy Dean Rowley climbed out, 36, tan uniform, neat wedding band shining as he adjusted his belt. "Evening. Who called this in?" "I did," Brenda said. "This man is interfering with lawful access." Rowley looked at Elijah. "Sir, name?" "Elijah Mercer." "Do you work here?" The question hung in the dust. "Yes." Brenda folded her arms. "He works for the property." Rowley opened a notebook. "Step away from the gate while we sort documents." "No." "If I step away, they'll open it." "Sir, I'm asking so nobody escalates." "They need to leave." Tom pushed the laminated map forward. "Deputy, we have perimeter access." Elijah lifted his envelope. "And I have county records." Brenda spoke over him. He refused to identify the actual owner. Rowley's face changed at refused. "Hand me what you have." Elijah gave him the copies, but kept the originals against his side. The deputy moved to the cruiser hood. Paper fluttered under amber light. The county worker traced boundary lines with one blunt finger. Brenda lowered her voice. This could have been easy. It still can. You embarrassed me in front of clients. Elijah looked toward the barn roof. You brought clients to my mother's supper table. For once, she had no answer. Nora stepped closer. Deputy, I filmed them trying the south track. Rowley did not turn. I'll take statements after I stabilize the scene. Brenda smiled. Small. Practiced. The deputy returned with the papers. Until dispatch confirms the parcel record, I need you 10 feet back. The gate stays locked. For now, step back. Elijah looked at the chain. It rested where his father's hand had rested when teaching him to close it at night. He let go. The chain tapped wood as he stepped back from his own gate. Behind him, buyers whispered, and Rowley's radio crackled with the dispatcher asking for the parcel owner's full legal name. The dispatcher's voice fizzed from Rowley's radio while Elijah stood 10 feet from his gate. Parcel record pending. Owner name not confirmed. Brenda heard pending and smiled. Tom lifted one hand. Stay close. We'll start with the view corridor. Deputy Rowley kept his hand up. Nobody opens anything. Of course, Brenda said. Then, lower. Walk along the fence. Elijah did not move until the group drifted toward the pasture edge. Their shoes crushed weeds beside the ditch. A woman aimed her phone through the wire, and a man said, Imagine a private club down there. The words reached Elijah like grit in his teeth. He walked to his pickup. The door groaned open. Heat, old leather, and dust rose from the cab. His phone blinked with voicemail from Ruth. He pressed play. Son, his mother said, breath close to the receiver. There are strangers by the barn again. Nora is with me. I locked the kitchen door, but I can see headlights on the road. Why are they looking at the house like that? A cup clattered somewhere behind her. Don't let them make you forget whose land you're standing on. The message ended with a hollow tone. Outside, Brenda's voice floated over the fence. The Mercer place has always been underused, she told the buyers. The barn becomes a tasting hall, the ridge becomes a sunset lawn, and that old road becomes controlled member access. Nora cut in. You don't have permission to say that. Ma'am? Brenda replied, sweet and cold. Please don't interrupt a professional presentation. Elijah opened the glove box. Inside lay insurance papers, a tire gauge, 2 peppermints Ruth kept leaving there, and a photograph in a clear sleeve. Camille stood in the same pasture 15 years earlier, hair blown across her cheek, one boot on the bottom rail, laughing at something outside the frame. The photo corner stuck to Elijah's thumb where the heat had softened the plastic. He tried to peel it free and stopped. For 3 breaths, he could not find the number he meant to call. Not the county. Not the lawyer he used to be. Not the sheriff who had eaten beans at his kitchen table after a flood. His thumb rested on the screen. A knock hit the passenger window. Lena stood outside, face pale above her dusty blazer. Elijah lowered the glass halfway. Mr. Mercer, she said, they're saying the club concept is approved. Is it? No. She looked toward Tom. I've never seen approval. Then why are you still here? Because I need this job. Tom laughed, one hand on a fence post as if claiming it. Lena saw the photograph in Elijah's lap and went quiet. That's the pasture from the brochure, she said. It was her favorite place. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to ask. Her eyes shone, but she blinked hard. The file says owner cooperation assumed. Assumed is not signed. I know. Behind her, Rowley called, Mr. Mercer, stay where I can see you. Elijah slid the photo back into the sleeve. The corner clung to his thumb once more before letting go. Lena whispered, What are you going to do? He looked past her at the buyers, at his mother's barn, at Brenda describing his life in future tense. Then he found Sheriff Marla Vance in his contacts and touched the name. The call rang twice before Sheriff Marla Vance answered. Elijah? He watched Brenda point across his pasture as if arranging furniture in a room. I need you at Raven Creek. Her chair creaked through the phone. What happened? Commercial event on private land. False access claims. Buyers present. Deputy Rowley is holding the gate until dispatch confirms the parcel. Are you safe? She asked. I'm by my truck. That was not my question. Brenda's voice rose beyond the fence. This ridge is the lifestyle promise. A buyer leaned over the wire for a photo. Elijah's phone glowed against the cab, blue light catching dust on his knuckles. No one has crossed the main gate, he said. They tried the south track. Send what you have. Before he answered, Nora's message dropped in. Then another. Then a third. 3 file boxes stacked on the screen. Nora. Video from 341. South track. Audio clear. I just got footage, Elijah said. Forward it. Stay visible. Do not argue with Brenda. I haven't. That's what worries me. A tap hit the passenger window. Lena stood outside, clutching her clipboard so tightly the metal clip had bent. Elijah lowered the glass. I have something, she whispered. Say it where the deputy can hear. She shook her head. Tom will fire me before I finish. Then make it a document. Lena slid a folded packet through the window. Buyer deck. Page 7 says, Owner cooperation assumed. Page 11 says, HOA transition path. I didn't write that. Elijah took it by the corner. The paper was warm from her hands. Marla's voice sharpened. Who is with you? Lena Morris, assistant to Elkins. Is she willing to give a statement? Lena looked toward Tom, laughing by the fence. Not out here. Marla heard enough. Tell her I'll take it in my vehicle. I'm leaving now. The line clicked to speaker static as Elijah forwarded Nora's videos. The first thumbnail showed Brenda's ribbon. The second caught Carter at the south latch before Miguel stopped him. The third showed Tom pointing toward the barn. Nora approached from the ditch, hair loose from her braid, phone held flat like an offering. I'm sorry it took so long. My hands kept shaking. You got it sent. I should have spoken at the clubhouse. You are now. Deputy Rowley stepped from the cruiser. Mr. Mercer, stop exchanging materials until records clears this. Elijah lifted the packet. Evidence of misrepresentation. Brenda turned. That is proprietary. Then why is it about my land? Tom strode over. Lena, what did you give him? She moved behind the truck door, but did not run. The truth. The word landed harder than she meant it to. Even the car music dipped. Rowley reached for the packet. I'll secure it. Elijah did not let go. You can photograph it. Sheriff Vance is coming. Brenda's expression changed at the name. Not fear. Calculation. You called Marla? She asked. I called the sheriff. Tom leaned close. You're making this bigger than you can afford. Elijah folded the packet against the certified deeds under his arm. No, you already did. At the far end of the county road, lights appeared over the rise, washing across the gate, the banner, and every face turned toward them. The headlights climbed the road slowly, and that made everyone stand straighter. Sheriff Marla Vance stepped from the lead vehicle, gray hair pulled tight, jacket open over her uniform. She studied the gate, the chain, the banner above the private property sign, then Elijah. Elijah? Sheriff. Brenda's smile came back thin. Marla, thank goodness. This has been blown out of proportion. Then it will be easy to shrink. Deputy Rowley hurried over. Dispatch hasn't confirmed ownership. We have competing access claims. Show me. Elijah handed her the certified packet. Marla laid the documents on the cruiser hood. Amber light rolled across the paper. Tom stepped closer. Sheriff, this is a routine preview. We relied on HOA perimeter authority. Who signed for Raven Creek? There was an understanding. That is not a signature. Brenda gave a small laugh. Rural parcels have messy histories. Marla turned the survey. Her fingertip followed the drainage ditch, the old cattle track, the square-marked barn, and stopped at the lower corner of the deed. The radio crackled. Nobody spoke over it. Marla read aloud. Elijah Thomas Mercer, trustee of Raven Creek Land Trust. A paper cup slipped from someone's hand and hit gravel. Rowley looked from the deed to Elijah. You're the trustee? Elijah nodded once. Brenda blinked. Trustee doesn't necessarily mean. It means he controls access, Marla said. No commercial passage without written consent. Tom reached for his phone, then stopped when Lena watched him. One buyer stepped back. Mrs. Whitcomb, you told us the landowner agreed. I said access was coordinated. You said sunset rights were secured, Lena said. Brenda turned. Do not freelance. I'm not. Marla lifted the buyer deck. Page 7. Owner cooperation assumed. Mr. Elkins, did you show this to buyers? Tom loosened his tie. Conceptually. Did you collect deposits connected to it? That's business. It is now a legal one. The wind pulled at the banner. One plastic tie groaned above the gate. Rowley cleared his throat. Sheriff, I asked Mr. Mercer to step back while we stabilized the scene. Did anyone else step back? His eyes moved across Brenda and the buyers. No, ma'am. Then start now. Everyone not named on this deed moves to the county road shoulder. Brenda's voice sharpened. You cannot let one man embarrass an entire community over a misunderstanding. I am not worried about embarrassment. The first buyer crossed the ditch. Then another. Shoes scraped gravel. Carter stood with his keys clenched, silent. Miguel began stacking white chairs. Relief did not reach Elijah as a smile. It arrived as space around his ribs. He noticed the evening air again, cool with dry grass and exhaust. Tom leaned close to Brenda. If that deck gets filed, we have a problem. Quiet, she whispered. Elijah heard it anyway. Marla handed the deed back. Her finger rested on the copied signature, where his father's name sat under the county seal. Mr. Mercer, she said, do you want these people removed from your property line? Elijah looked past her to the barn. Ruth's kitchen light glowed in one square window. Yes, he said, and I want every statement preserved. At 8:18, county conference room smelled of burnt coffee and copier heat. Elijah sat with the deed folder closed before him. Ruth had pressed his collar flat without a word. Brenda kept her purse on her lap. Tom set his phone and pen in line. Sheriff Vance stood by the monitor. For the record, ownership is established. Brenda's bracelet clicked. We are cooperating. Daniel Price, 55, County Council, entered with a yellow pad. Mr. Mercer. Elijah gave a small nod. Daniel opened the laptop. Ms. Blake's footage first. Nora sat near the door. Lena held her clipboard flat across her lap. The video began with wind noise and Brenda's voice. He'll open it. The speaker crackled on open. Brenda looked at her purse clasp. On screen, Carter stood at the south track while Tom pointed toward the cattle path. Miguel's faint voice said, We shouldn't be here. Daniel paused it. Mrs. Whitcomb, who did you mean by he? A staff person. I was told the caretaker was handling access. By whom? Tom leaned in. General planning discussions. With whom? HOA leadership. Lena spoke from the end. No owner was on those emails. Tom turned. You were not authorized to speak for the company. No, she said, but I can read an inbox. Daniel opened the buyer deck. Page 7 says, owner cooperation assumed. Page 11 says, HOA transition path. What was transitioning? A future relationship. With land you did not control? With a community-facing asset. Elijah looked up. A pasture is not an asset because strangers can see it. Tom's mouth tightened. Vance played the second clip. Brenda's voice returned. The caretaker gets nervous when big money comes through. Nora looked at Elijah, then away. Daniel let it finish. Wind, a buyer's laugh, and Lena's pen buzzed against her clipboard. Then he clicked stop. Mrs. Whitcomb, did you know Mr. Mercer was the trustee? I knew the family had historical ties. That was not my question. I did not have the complete title structure. You represented access as coordinated. I represented reasonable expectation. Reasonable expectation is not a document. Deputy Rowley shifted by the wall. I asked Mr. Mercer to step back while records were confirmed. And did you ask the event group to retreat? No, sir. Why not? Rowley looked at Elijah. I accepted the HOA notice as possibly valid. Elijah watched the deputy's fingers fold against his belt. Lena slid a printed email forward. From Tom, 11:03 yesterday. Brenda says the old man won't fight it if we make it look official. Tom stood halfway. That is out of context. Sheriff Vance said, Sit down. His chair scraped hard. Daniel placed the email beside the deed. Elijah's hand moved to the folder, then stopped. My mother was setting dinner under those photographs. No one answered. The laptop fan whirred. Daniel wrote one final note. We will preserve the videos, emails, buyer materials, and dispatch audio. Written notice goes out today. Brenda whispered, This is excessive. Elijah closed the deed folder. So was tying a sales banner to my gate. Daniel looked toward Lena and Nora. Next, statements from everyone who saw this before last night and said nothing. Carter Dane kept both hands around his key ring. It was 8:47 p.m. The county conference room windows had gone black, turning every person at the table into a reflection. Coffee steamed from cups nobody touched. The air conditioner pushed cold air over Elijah's cuffs. Daniel Price set a recorder in the center. State your name and role. Carter Dane, security at Willow Bend. When did you learn vehicles would use the south track? Carter glanced at Brenda. Yesterday afternoon. From whom? Mrs. Whitcomb. Brenda leaned forward. I asked him to monitor a boundary. Daniel's pen stopped. You will have your turn. Carter swallowed. She said the ranch agreed, but the caretaker might act territorial. Did that sound right? No. Old Man Mercer never let anyone use that track. Not even delivery trucks. Elijah did not correct Old Man. Did you verify permission? Daniel asked. No, sir. Why not? Carter's key ring trembled once. I need the job. Mrs. Allen, in her blue cardigan, looked down at the tissue twisted between her fingers. Daniel turned. Mrs. Allen? She rose slowly. I'm not sure what I can add. Add what you saw. She came to the table, but did not sit. The tissue was shredded. At the clubhouse, Mr. Mercer showed a map. I asked if we had spoken to the owner. And what happened? Brenda said it was verified. Did you believe her? Outside, a truck passed on the county road, tires whispering over gravel. I wanted to, she said. It is easier to believe the person holding the microphone. Brenda gave a small sound. This is theater. Mrs. Allen flinched. 2 years ago, she told us to sign view corridor papers. I didn't understand mine. My husband was sick, and the board said delays hurt values. Do you still have it? At home. In a drawer. Elijah looked at her hands. Paper dust clung to the tissue. She turned toward him, but could not hold his eyes. I heard them call you caretaker. I knew that family name. I should have said so. Elijah answered quietly. You're saying it now. Her face folded before she sat down. Lena placed printed emails in a straight stack. Tom told staff not to contact the landowner directly. He said it would confuse the preview. Tom snapped, because assistants don't negotiate access. No, Lena said, because the answer would have been no. Miguel Santos lifted one hand. I told dispatch the site was disputed. The client insisted. I unloaded one stand inside the barn. His voice lowered on barn. Elijah remembered the white panel against Camille's photograph. Did anyone from Mr. Mercer's side invite you? Daniel asked. No, sir. And when he told me to move it, he didn't yell. That made it worse. Worse how? Tom asked. Miguel looked at him. Because I couldn't pretend he was the problem. The room went still, except for the recorder's red blink. Sheriff Vance closed her folder. We have enough for temporary orders tonight. Brenda stood. You are punishing me for trying to improve a road. Elijah picked up the deed folder, the cardboard softening under his thumb. No, he said. They are finally asking who stayed quiet while you crossed it. Mrs. Allen's torn tissue lay on the table after she left, white beside county seal. At 9:16 p.m., Daniel Price placed 3 printed orders on the conference table. The first page slid toward Brenda. She watched it as if paper could stain. Temporary no-entry order, Daniel said. Raven Creek Ranch, North Fence, South Cattle Track, Barn Road, and marketing tied to those places. Tom leaned back. A county memo can't shut down a business presentation. Sheriff Vance stood behind him. It can when the presentation used land you do not control. It was a concept. You sold it as access, Daniel said. Claire Maddox, 46, from the Real Estate Commission, spoke through the phone. Mr. Elkins, did any buyer place money in escrow after that deck? Tom's pen stopped tapping. 1 reservation deposit. Connected to Raven Creek views? Claire asked. Partly. Elijah looked at the black window. His reflection sat beside Ruth's empty chair, though Nora had taken her home. Daniel pushed the second order forward. All materials withdrawn by noon. Posts, printed routes, buyer emails, signs, every access claim corrected. Brenda touched the paper. Her gold pen slipped from her purse and rolled, leaving a blue blot by the signature line. The ink spread. That is dramatic, she said. No, Daniel said. It is precise. And if I refuse? Vance answered. Then I remove your choice. Nobody laughed for Brenda. Outside the glass wall, Miguel's crew carried folded chairs through the hall. White legs clicked together. Elijah opened his deed folder. I want the barn threshold repaired where the stand scraped it. The fence inspected. Everyone who received that deck told the land was never available. Tom sighed. Now we're negotiating damages? We are listing them. You act like someone burned the place down. Elijah looked at him until the sigh died. My wife's picture was beside your check-in stand. Lena covered her mouth. Tom shifted. I didn't know that. You didn't ask. Claire spoke again. Preserve messages, add drafts, deposits, and client communications. Deletion after notice will be treated accordingly. Daniel placed the third order before Brenda. HOA compliance review, independent audit of access notices, claims, and homeowner documents tied to land outside Willowbend control. Mrs. Allen sat up. Does that include old papers? Yes. Her torn tissue had been replaced with a napkin. She flattened it in her lap. Brenda looked at the residents behind her. No one gave back the usual loyal face. This board served Willowbend for 9 years, she said. Property values rose because I kept standards. Standards don't move fence lines, Elijah said. She stared at him. You want me humiliated? No. Then what do you want? He folded the repair list once and set it beside the deed. Correction to everyone you misled. Compensation for damage. Public acknowledgement that Raven Creek never agreed. Rules that stop the next quiet owner from standing alone at a gate. Claire said, Reasonable for preliminary resolution. Tom whispered, Brenda, sign. Fight later. Her bracelet clicked as she took the pen. The blot had spread under her palm like a bruise. She signed. Elijah watched Lena stare at the stain as if she had just understood how little a polished table could hide. At 10:04 the next morning, the gatepost still carried the scar where Elijah's chain had rubbed the wood bare. A county truck idled beside it. 2 workers held a new steel gate while Miguel tightened bolts with a socket wrench. Each turn clicked through the cool air. Cut metal smelled sharp over cedar dust. Ruth stood by the ditch, one hand on Elijah's sleeve. Your father would say it's too shiny. He said that about every new thing. He was usually right. Elijah touched the fresh sign in the grass. Raven Creek Land Trust. Private family property. Commercial access by written consent only. Sheriff Vance walked up with Daniel Price. Carter Dane climbed from a Willowbend cart and stopped before the ditch. Morning, Mr. Mercer, Carter said. Morning. Daniel opened his folder. Any commercial showing involving adjacent private land now requires deed verification before advertising. Miguel paused his wrench. So nobody can just send us with chairs? If they do, Daniel said, call the county. Vance handed Elijah a second page. Willowbend accepted interim supervision. Independent complaint panel within 30 days. Access claims go through legal review. Ruth read slowly. Soft words for keep your hands home. Yes, ma'am, Vance said. Across the ditch, Mrs. Allen held a folded envelope against her chest. Brenda was not there. Tom was not there. The road, for once, did not feel occupied. Carter stepped closer, but did not cross. Sheriff said I should return this. He held out a Southgate key. Elijah looked at it. You kept it? HOA kept it in the booth. I never asked why. Do you know why now? Because nobody expected you to ask. Elijah dropped the key into Vance's evidence bag. Ruth turned toward the barn road. I want to walk. Elijah offered his arm, but she went first. Her shoes pressed into pale dust where tire marks had crossed the day before. No engines followed. No camera lifted. Wind moved through the grass instead of voices selling what was not theirs. At the barn, the threshold board had been sanded where the white stand scraped it. The mark remained, a lighter stripe in old wood. Ruth touched it with 2 fingers. Leave it, she said. I was going to replace that board. No. Leave one place that remembers. Behind them, Miguel called. Ready for the sign. Elijah carried it back to the gate. Daniel held one side while Miguel set the screws. When the sign lifted, it swung once in the breeze and tapped the post beside the old chain scar. The sound was small. Everyone heard it. Mrs. Allen crossed the ditch slowly. Mr. Mercer, these are the papers Brenda made us sign. Maybe they matter. They matter, Daniel said. She turned to Elijah. I can't undo last night. No? Her eyes lowered. But you can help make sure it doesn't happen again. She nodded once. Ruth looked through the new bars toward the open pasture. Supper tonight? Elijah watched the sign settle. Only if we use the old plates. And no banners. No banners. Vance closed her folder. Mr. Mercer, the road is yours to open or close. Elijah put the old key into the new lock. For a moment, he did nothing. Then he turned it, not to let strangers in, but to hear the gate answer only to his hand. Lantern light warmed the barn beams while plates clicked down the long table. Ruth set the last fork beside a chipped blue rim and looked at the hat on the wall. Elijah's father's hat hung straight above the photographs, not as a warning, but as something that had waded through one more storm. You set too many places, Elijah said. Ruth slid a napkin under a glass. People can decide whether they're brave enough to sit. Nora arrived first with a pan. Miguel came after her carrying a sanded board for the threshold, though Ruth had told him not to replace it. She won't change her mind, Elijah said. I figured, Miguel answered. Lena came near sunset. No blazer, no clipboard, only a plain coat and an envelope. I gave my statement to the commission, she said. I resigned this morning. Elijah moved one chair back. Eat before you decide what comes next. 2 weeks later, the county report was mailed to every Willow Bend home. It listed dates, documents, videos, emails, and corrections. Tom Elkin's license went under review. His brokerage suspended his listings. Brenda Whitcomb resigned as HOA president, and the board accepted outside supervision. She was ordered to send a correction to every buyer and resident who had received the materials. Mrs. Allen read that correction aloud at the first public meeting. Her voice shook on the sentence that said Raven Creek had never granted access. Carter Dane sat in the back row, no keys in his hand, waiting to complete new training on property boundaries. Afterward, he found Elijah outside. I should have asked sooner, Carter said. Elijah watched wind move over the drainage ditch. Ask next time. I will. That's enough to start. In November, new county rules went into effect. Any commercial showing near private rural land required deed verification, written consent, and a plain language notice explaining what an HOA did not control. Willow Bend created a complaint panel with Mrs. Allen, Nora, and an outside attorney. Lena took a job with a small title office in Cedar Ridge. On her first day, she sent Elijah a photo of a stamp pad and one line. Signed means signed. Raven Creek stayed quiet through the first cold rain. The grass darkened. The chain scar on the gatepost swelled with weather, and the new sign tapped softly whenever wind came from the west. At supper, people passed beans, cornbread, and Ruth's apple cake. Nora helped Ruth wash cups while Lena dried plates with both hands, careful as if they were legal records. Miguel fixed a loose hinge on the barn door. Near the end, Mrs. Allen stood beside Elijah under the photographs. I'm sorry I waited until it was safe, she said. Elijah looked at the threshold mark, the pale stripe where the white stand had scraped the wood. Most people do. I don't want to be most people anymore. He nodded once. Then don't. After everyone left, Ruth brought him the red ribbon Brenda had tied to the gate. Nora had found it under the SUV tracks and folded it into a square. Ruth placed it on the table below his father's hat. Keep it? She asked. Elijah picked it up. Dust still marked the fabric. No, he said. He tied it around a fence post by the compost pile, where wind and rain could take it apart thread by thread. Then he locked the gate, not hard, not angry, just closed. Inside, the old hat rested above the clean table. If this story reminded you of a time when someone crossed a line and expected silence, share it in the comments. Tell us what happened, who stood up, and what changed afterward. Stories like this matter because dignity is often defended by quiet people long before anyone else notices. Share this with someone who believes justice is not revenge, but correction, accountability, and the courage to protect what should never have been taken. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, family legacy, and the kind of systemic change that begins when one person refuses to be pushed aside. Thank you for staying until the end.